All right, perfect. Hello, hello. Welcome to Zimmerman with David Zimmerman, Meet the Biz. I'm so happy to come here and be a host for Meet the Biz. My name is Melissa. I am a member of the deaf and hard of hearing community, and I also have a show called Melmira, which maybe you guys know, that I love to ask questions, which I'm going to do tonight with all of you. I know that your movie, the Easter Sales, it was a challenge, and wow, you guys made waves. I've been watching so many wonderful movies, and so many of those they include the deaf community, and that's exciting. It's exciting to see so much representation. And now we're going to go ahead and chat with you about the film Kryptonite. And before I go ahead, I would love for everyone to quickly introduce themselves and your role included in the movie. Let's start with David.
Oh, me. Okay.
Of
Hello.
course, we have to give credit where it's due.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
Okay.
you have to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm David Zimmerman, and I'm one of the producers, one of the executive producers, along with my partner in this, partner in crime, Penny Wilson, also co-casting. And it's just a joy to create a project that has heart and can change, hopefully change minds and perspectives.
And I'll get back to you with that. You said hoping to change minds and perspectives. We'll get back to that later, okay? Hold that thought. And Penny?
I'm Penny Wilson. I will co-executive produced and co-casted the film with David, my partner in crime. And after executive producing a documentary about a young man with Asperger's, David and I saw David's piece. We started talking about doing this challenge, and I'm very, very glad I did. So that's my part in the film, and I'm glad to be here with you all today.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Penny. All right, let's go to Cameron. I know you're looking up your bio right now on the computer, and I was like, wow, that was pretty impressive. You have a very impressive background. What's your involvement with this?
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Cameron S. Mitchell. I'm the director, co-writer, and producer on this project. And it was exciting to come to Kryptonite from my last project, Elsa, which is a documentary about a deafblind fencer that I did for PBS American Masters. And a lot of my work, most of my work is in the space of disability. And I have undiagnosed hard of hearing, and I'm also neurodivergent. I have a spinal cord injury, and I also have sleep apnea. So I've kind of had this a lot of different things going on, and my family is also interdependently disabled. My folks are disability studies professors. So that's kind of the perspective I approach all of my work from. And Kryptonite is this intersectional, two different worlds colliding kind of approach.
Cool. I do have a question related with your inspiration and your idea for this movie. And so I'll have those questions ready and we'll ask you later. And so Joanne Dean, your red lips look awesome.
I copy you with the lipstick. So, hi, my name is Joanne Dean. I sign, but for today and for consistency, I'm going to allow the interpreter to sign for me. I'm a producer on the project, Kryptonite, and I brought in to the project the team of ASL interpreters I think now we're about up to 7 interpreters that we've had over the course, who have all donated their time. I also brought in the Dazzle, Brian Michael Cole, who you'll get to meet very soon, Director of Artistic Sign Language. And I helped with the audition of bringing, they were interested in a deaf actor, and then my background with Broadway signs and with the deaf community and producing on stage, and especially it's a vocalist and a deaf artist. So now I get to do it in a short film format as opposed to live theater, which was a challenge. And it was very inspirational for me to work in a different medium, doing the same thing. Thank you.
That's nice. It's nice to have someone who can be involved with the hearing community and the deaf community, and it's interesting to see how they relate. And I do appreciate that perspective. And now we'll go ahead and Ryan Cole, we'll see your role as Dale. Ryan Cole. Okay. So I was involved with, really, I got involved last minute with Joanne. We were just chatting and she said that I need to be with the DASL. And I am a movie maker myself. I have a background with movie and theater, and I work with the company Through the Road, and I was a writer for a film festival, the summer film festival, in the summer this year. And there's a lot more deaf writers and actors, and now I wrote a movie of my own. I'm working on that in about 2 weeks. So I'm involved with DASL, and it's kind of like a deaf perspective. And I'm like behind the scenes. I was like behind the scenes for this film, Kryptonite. Perfect, thank you. And maybe you'll notice David, he put his hands up. That's a deaf way of applauding, clapping your hands. It's the deaf way to clap your hands. And I appreciate that. And I saw that, David. So not the least important, but the 2 stars of this movie, I already watched the movie, and wow, it was beautiful acting, and I could feel your energy with this role. And Ryan and Shanice, do you guys mind introducing yourselves and your role in this movie?
Okay, I don't know if Ryan wants to go first. He can go first. Go ahead.
Okay. So my first name is Ryan, and I've been an actor for 15 years. The role I'm in this show is, well, with Easterdale, this is my first time with this challenge, and I worked with all of you. I worked with the new producers and DASL. I've been involved with a lot. It's been nice, and I saw a few different communities included, and it was great. It was wonderful working with everybody. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So hi, I'm Shanice, and I played the role of Imani. Imani's my daughter's name. And so that was really cool to play, use her name in the film. My Aunt Penny and David Zimmerman reached out to me about the project, and I immediately said yes, because I have friends who have, a few of my friends have disabilities, and I just feel like there's so many great talent out there, and it's time for everyone to get that exposure that they deserve. And so that's why I'm a part. And I started out doing theater When I was a kid, I started out on stage when I was 8 years old doing theater, and I've done Broadway. I was Eponine in Les Mis. So I've done acting over the years. I've done some appearances on a few television shows, but I've never done anything like this. I've never done a challenge before, and I really had a great time. Really had a great time watching, Ryan do his thing. I got to learn some sign language, so that was a lot of fun. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad I did the project. I'm so glad, and it turned out great. It turned out great.
Yay.
I agree. I agree. Now our time is to really show my community, what we're capable of. And honestly, it's not only the deaf and hard of hearing, it's also like, Melissa, I get an opportunity and I need to grab this opportunity to keep showing and showing and showing. It's really good. This opportunity is great, and I'm ready to start asking you all these questions. But first, just so you all know, the basics of this challenge, what it was. All of the filmmakers had to meet 1 to 5, they had to do 1 to 5 minutes of a film. So they had to include at least 2 filmmakers. They had to use
2 items from the 2 items added to the script. 2 to
2 items
3.
added to the
Yeah.
script. Sorry.
Right. Props.
They had to do at least 2 of those. 2 props. And they had to include a strict location. So it was important for the actors to be involved in an apartment and like a lounge area, a cafe, somewhere like a garage, like a parking lot. And there were 3 different rules, 3 different options. So all of you who are involved in this challenge, they had to follow all those rules. And now with the movie that you guys announced, Kryptonite, I'm really curious, how did you guys come up with the name Kryptonite? What inspired that idea? What was it? And maybe Shanice, maybe you were
Well,
involved in that too.
I had written a song. I co-wrote the song with a few of my friends, and David said, "I think that's the perfect. We need to use this for the challenge." So
The song was so incredible. Sorry for interrupting, but the song was so incredible that I was dreaming about it, and then I just went exactly what you said. We have to do this.
As soon as they told me about the challenge, David heard the song, and we went from there. That's how we got it going.
The next step, once they selected the song, was to get the synchronization license from the other writers and the song producer in order to use it, which was a real dance. I'll tell you, it was tough to get that done. But I'm grateful that we were able to do it and get it done in time to use it for the film.
Cameron?
Yeah, we actually went back and forth about this name quite a few times, and we ended up on Kryptonite. I think, I've been listening to the song over and over again because Shanice's music is amazing.
Thank you.
And just really like meditating on the lyrics. And in the song, she says, "I'm too weak to pull away. You're my kryptonite." And it's kind of a rephrasing in a way. It's a rethinking of kryptonite, what we think of as kryptonite. And so it could be, it makes it this more amorphous, this more kind of ambiguous, like it could be good, it could be bad, it could be all these things in between. And so that the song, I think, really plays to kind of the layering, there's so much layering going on in this relationship.
I feel the same with you. So my first my first thought was Superman, their kryptonite, it makes him weak and he kind of like
I thought
goes in a
about-
different path. And I was thinking about that movie, but your guys's film, it kind of, you can see the weakness. And Shanice, your name, that's, it's so awesome that that you said yes and that it was easy to say yes. How was working with Ryan? I'm curious how you guys work together. I'll
Oh
let
my
Shanice
goodness.
go first.
Working with Ryan was the best. Like I had so much fun. I was watching, I learned so much from him. He's such a pro, like he's really, really good. And we would joke around and dance like Michael Jackson and have fun and laugh. And then as soon as they say action, he would just kill it every time. He'd go from laughing to like really into the scene. And he just has a good spirit. And it was all good for me. I really enjoyed Ryan, and I would love to work with Ryan again in the future. He deserves like an Oscar. Like I think he's really good, and he's a lot of fun, and he's a great person.
I second that as director. Ryan deserves an Oscar.
Yes, yes.
The thing that I really,
Oh wow, Ryan. Yeah, Ryan is talented. He really is. Sorry, Penny. Ryan, what was your experience with this? Working with Shanice. Wow, just it was a lot of patience to learn each other's community and try to understand what we don't know, our differences. And I was happy to work with her. And just to let you know, we learned quick, and it was quick to understand how to work with her. I had to ask a lot of questions, I had to keep an open mind. A lot of people, they don't ask questions and they kind of just put a front, but you have to ask questions and you have to socialize in a way. It's important. It's important to learn each other. And for 2 days, we got that. I would love to work with Shanice again. And I think you should get a reward for your singing as well.
Oh,
And
thank
you have a lot of
you.
patience, and even if it was after midnight, all night long, it was like,
In the cold, we were outside in the cold.
yeah, it was cold. It was so cold. You're a brave woman.
Thank you.
And I'm curious, Shanice, did you know any ASL before the
Not a,
movie?
you know what? I want to say this, and I have a video called "When I Close My Eyes," and it was released in '99. And my choreographers, we did sign language, and we incorporated into the choreography. So I got to do that, which was a lot of fun. But since then, no, I haven't. This is my first time since then doing sign language. So.
And I'm curious. So I found myself wondering when I'm watching, I see, that there's the deaf actor and then there's a hearing actor, and they don't sign. So Cameron, did that mean that you had to bring someone who was like great at signing, or?
Great at sign for which role?
Okay, so I'm curious, Cameron. So you wanted somebody who, at Shanice's role, you wanted somebody there who didn't know sign fluently, and why?
Yeah, so the character of Amani is supposed to just have dipped her feet in, if that, to the deaf world, so to speak, just through Alex's character. And so it's this, like I said, it's a colliding of two different worlds. So they had a fling, and it was 2 years ago. So there's not a lot retained there when they meet again, but they're both trying to put on their best faces for each other because they want the relationship to continue to exist, even though it didn't end on the best terms. So it's a lot to get in a 5-minute short. And as you mentioned, those were the stipulations of the challenge. And to be honest, we probably have a 10-minute, we shot enough for a 10-minute short film, and there's going to be a festival cut of this that's going to expand and show, like we filmed close-ups of Shanice's lips and Ryan's eyes and showing the kind of fraughtness of communication, the difficulty there. And that didn't really get through in this cut because we didn't have time. You know, I would love if the Disability Film Challenge expanded its time limit. That would be great. But for now, we're working within the window that we're given, which is 5 minutes.
I agree. 5 minutes is tough. How do you incorporate powerful messages in with wonderful actors to tell, you know, to show the meaning in 5 minutes? That's hard. But you guys, you seem to do that with your vision. You were able to do that with Kryptonite. And I'm curious, do any of you if any of you can answer this question, what's your perspective? What was your mindset to make this movie powerful? Like, what did you have to do?
I would like to interject here that when the whole concept came up about doing the Disability Film Challenge, David and I talked about how it would be interesting because I wanted to have Shanice in the piece. And we talked about, you know, what would be interesting as for someone to play across from her. And after discussing it a while, we thought that having a non-hearing man with a singer would be very interesting. And so fortunately, he knew Joanne Dean, and Joanne Dean was able to help navigate that whole thing with the deaf community and teach us all how to make that work. But as far as my thought process in the writing side, I wanted to deal with issues that are currently challenging in our culture today. We're dealing with a lot of cultural challenges, you know, and one of them is racism. And I wanted to bring that to the fore. I didn't know how that would be done, but I thought it'd be interesting to deal with cultural issues, having the different levels of a singer and a non-hearing man dealing with a white man versus and a Black woman, and just having all those different levels collide and be able to navigate a story that would make sense. And fortunately, we had the team and the director was able to show that in a very powerful way. So I'm really, really proud of the piece that we've done.
One thing too is the connection. Whenever I work on a project, I'm all about people and people connecting and loving and all that. So it's that connection that we have, whether it's the deaf community and the hearing community, the Black, the white community, the gay, the straight, whatever it is. I wanted to make a film of coming together and the struggles that we have with that, but also to push through that it is possible that we can all come together.
Shanice, let's go ahead and take advantage of the time that you're still here. What did you think? What did you take away from this movie? What really hit your heart with this movie?
What hit my heart was, I guess, you know, Ryan really like hit my heart. Like, the fact that we were able to communicate, you know, we do come from two different worlds, but I felt like the way he communicated with me, I felt like he could hear me. I don't know if this makes sense, but as we got to work together, I felt like he could hear what I was what I was saying. And that really, I don't know, that really touched me, and What was the question again? I forgot what the question is.
How you didn't know sign before this movie, and you're very new to signing.
I'm
But it was like a learning experience for you. And what was
yes.
something that you
And
learned with working with someone from the deaf community?
I mean, I've learned you know, I learned some, you know, like I said, the sign language, and I've learned that you can connect with somebody even if they don't hear you. You can still connect with somebody on a spiritual level, you know, and that's what we did, working together. So
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was powerful for you. And I'm curious, Ryan, what was powerful for you during this making of the film? So making this film, well, I've been an actor for 15 years. I've done so many things, but this project, wow, it was impressive. My role, it was the first time that I've ever been like a father. And before that, I was always like a teenage actor. And now
Aw.
it's like the first time that I became a father. And so I realized something interesting, and it was powerful because both of us were in different communities. Just like you said, I'm white, she's black, she's hearing, and she's a singer, and I'm a man and I'm deaf. And so it was like two different worlds colliding, and the only thing that we had in common was the love. And it was a strong connection. And that's what I learned. uh, Whether she understand me signing, or she didn't understand me signing with my arms, but she could understand my body language, and I could read her lips. The understanding is more important. We could understand each other,
Yeah.
and that's how we connected. And that's the impact that I got from this film. And just to let you know, it was a challenge. It was, but it just took time to understand each other better.
Mhm.
And we'll get back to you. Cameron wants to say something.
I just want to say that working with Ryan and Shanice was just, I mean, they're both professionals, and we had 5 days to do this. And day one, we spent writing, finishing the script, and rehearsing. And it was so important to get to the connection between them. And ASL was a challenge there, if to be honest, because we're taking two different worlds and combining them. And we know that people who lip read only capture maybe 50% of what is said, right? So to portray that, considering that, to portray a relationship alongside that reality was just incredibly difficult. And I was so proud of Ryan and Shanice and how they were able to get to this other level of connection.
Yeah. You know what? In the beginning, it was difficult. I'm sorry. You want to go, Ryan? Shall I let Ryan go?
Oh, no. Go ahead, Shanice. Go
Oh, no,
ahead.
in the beginning, in the very beginning, it was a little bit difficult. When, because we had, he would say his lines, and then someone would repeat the line, and they would delay, relay the message to him, but they would say it out loud. So I didn't know when to jump in, when can I talk, because they would say their lines, and then I'm like waiting for them to finish what I was saying to him. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, it was confusing because I was waiting for them to speak. Then I didn't know when to jump in for me to speak. But then once he started reading my lips, and I just felt like I don't know, I felt a connection. But in the very beginning, I was still trying to figure it out. But it turned out, it worked out. Yeah, if that makes any sense.
Oh, okay. And Joanne?
Yeah, can I defer this to Brian? Because this is where Brian came in and he kind of removed the interpreters. Brian Cole? Brian. Did he freeze? Okay. So you want to explain about your role when we kind of removed the interpreters so that you kind of said, let's, yeah,
Yeah,
here we go.
so first, it was hard at first because, during rehearsal, the interpreter would voice for Ryan. And
Yeah,
and Shanice and Ryan, they tried to like say their lines, and I just thought it would be better without an interpreter. It was just confusing. So we removed the interpreters, and that's why at
yeah,
first, it was better to let the two actors work together and figure it out
yeah,
together. That would have worked out better. With the interpreter, you can kind of like know when to say the lines, but it just got confusing.
it was
The
at first.
interpreters have like a delayed response, and Shanice might have not been used to it. They had to wait for the interpreter to stop talking or stop signing. So it's like it's hard. You have to know when to start talking when it's your turn. So it's funny today we get a sense of that, and we're trying. We're working together, and the two.
I think Ryan wants to talk.
Okay, so I did notice that the flow during the movie. I was watching the movie when Ryan would sign and Shanice would speak, it like clearly you're a signer and you don't speak, but and it could be, and it was clear that Shanice didn't know sign and that you guys
Oh,
took
I thought she was
turns
being like,
in a smooth way. And it was like your guys' characteristics kind of matched. And I you guys took turns signing. So can you guys explain how you guys sorry.
One at a time, raise your
Yeah.
hand. Brian? Brian?
Okay. So Ryan, in the beginning, Shanice and me, during rehearsal, we already knew how to work on that because I grew up with a hearing family. Most of my family was hearing. I had to read lips. So I knew how to read their lips. And
oh,
I just kind of found a way to make my family understand what I was saying. So I grew up knowing how to do that. And with 15 years of acting in the beginning, I did make a lot of mistakes, and there was really no deaf influence or anything. And now it's kind of like
Switched at birth with the TV show, Switched
I
at birth.
switched at birth is kind of
Mhm.
like where I learned a lot of mistakes from the beginning, and now I kind of brought everything I learned to this film. And I discussed with Brian to make sure that, the directors and the producers and the writers and everything me and Brian already knew how it worked out with them, and how to explain to them to work with an open mind and to listen and learn our experiences. And we've already made the mistakes in the past, and we kind of brought that as a learning experience for this one. And so working with Shanice, I could read her lips. I knew the words she was saying with the lines, and also I made sure that I showed Shanice like what I sign. Like I showed her my hands and how I sign, and what each sign means, to make sure
yeah,
that she understood. It's the same thing with my family. I made sure that they understood what I was saying, the way I was
right.
saying it. And so, it's two different communities, the deaf community and the hearing community, and it's kind of like the middle of it.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, Brian's perspective on trying to tailor that situation between you two. Okay, so at first I did have to, I did think that Shanice had to learn ASL, but I realized there wasn't enough time. And they didn't see each other in 2 years in the movie. And a lot of hearing people, I understand they do forget ASL, and it makes sense. So they didn't see each other in 2 years in the movie. And just like me, a lot of ASL students that I didn't see in a really long time, they don't remember the signs that they learned. And so it and they didn't see the baby in 2 years, and it's obvious that it makes sense that she had some forgetfulness with signing, and she knew basic signs. You could see it in the movie. And sometimes hearing people have great retention skills than production skills, you know? So maybe with Shanice's perspective, maybe she had better retention skills. And so it was kind of like questions that I would ask, like, how do you know sign? How do you know this and that? How did you guys date and know, like, did you know sign? And it just kind of makes sense. It was just different relations. And so I was working with everybody and throwing my tips in and encouraging some people to sign, and some of the visuals didn't really make sense. And I had to make sure that, you know, you could see what was being signed. If it was being signed, I had to make sure the picture matched and all the angles were correct. Right, really, many hearing people are able to sign, and if they, you know, it's harder for them to retain it than to produce it. Okay, so what Brian said was right. So I have two hearing sisters, and I taught them sign language growing up. And they live in different states now. I didn't see them since December. So I fly to see them, and I realized both of my sisters, they sign, but they forgot some signs. And you know, most people, when you're not around deaf people often, you forget signs. If you don't use your signs, you forget it. And you know, I understood my role, and I understand their role. And even though we've known each other for a long time, you know, they say it's been 2 years, and I forget that I have experience with people that you know, they don't take ASL classes, they don't do anything, but they learn from me. They learn signs from me, and they know some, and it's better than nothing. And I realized that that's how me and Alex, we kind of had that in common. Cameron?
Yeah, I was just going to say that this script is built from Ryan and Shanice's experience, and that Ryan told us that story of his sister coming home and not retaining sign. And that was a big part of the development of this character. So it's built from real lived experience. It might not be everyone's experience, but it was his experience. And that's why that made it into the film. Also, with the pregnancy, that's something from Shanice's experience. And, you know, so this was a kind of a very communal project, and that we built it up together.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, and it didn't come from somewhere fictional, like that we just pulled out of thin air. It came from real lived experience of the team.
Absolutely.
Mhm, mhm.
Yes.
And now I'm curious from all of your perspectives. A lot of people watched this movie, they saw it. It's just a 5-minute movie. It was very powerful, a lot of emotions. What are your guys' goal? What were your guys' goals for people watching this? What did you want them to take away from the movie?
Well, I like to think of Hitchcock's quote where he says that he likes to play the audience like a piano. So our goal was to play the piano here and to evoke emotion, to make people feel this connection, and to not just feel happiness or just sadness, because I think in a lot of romances, particularly that involve disabled people, it's either all one note sad or all one note happy. And there's no dimension there. And so we wanted a full 4D dimensional relationship with all of the ups and downs and in betweens. So that was like, you know, piecing it together, that rhythm between them. That's what's so important. That makes you feel this, both of their worlds and how they conflict and often hit against each other, but also the underlying desire to make them meet and to find a common ground and understanding.
And I would like to say that people can just have a vibe and just have a strong attraction, and the energy two people can have. It doesn't matter whether they can hear or they can't. It doesn't matter whether they're Black or whether they're white. It's that passion that they had, and they had it then, and they were separated for a while, but it was amazing that as soon as they saw each other, it was reignited. And that's the kind of energy that two people can have, regardless of their circumstances or their abilities. Yes.
You know, and that reminds me of my dear friend Jerry Jewell. I mean, we don't have to say anything to each other. We can look across the room and we know what each other is thinking. It's just that connection. It's that soul connection. It's that, if you believe in past lives, it's that kind of connection. So again, it's like that word connection, whether it's soul or whatever, but it's that bond.
So did you feel that connection? And you know, you didn't see each other for 2 years, and the synchrony was still there. And of course, you know, when it's cut off and everyone's just kind of thinking.
I would like to ask Melissa if she felt the connection.
Melissa.
Yes. Yes. I can admit, in general, it's not very realistic for like to understand like the hearing world completely. But in this situation, it was kind of like seamless. You know, it was the flow was really well done. And so you can feel like, oh wow, they already have a connection. They already have history. They already have communication. And maybe, you know, she doesn't fully sign, but they have their own connection. And that's what that was my takeaway.
And if there were more difficulty in that communication, would that make it even more believable for you?
Like a heated discussion, of course. You went away and then Shanice had a baby. Of course there's emotion there. So you can feel it.
Yeah, but if
Brian.
Sorry, go ahead.
So
Okay.
Cameron, I have a question for you to add. So sometimes, you know, the deaf do, you know, I do understand. I understand hearing people, and I just kind of know what they're saying. You know, I have my hearing family and I know, but sometimes I do say, huh? What? One time or two times with my family, of course. And you know, sometimes communication is easy. If I know them really well, you kind of have like that comfortableness, but sometimes you have that situation where you're like, what? And I think maybe Melissa was trying to explain that, you know, like
when she goes we and he goes we.
You know, 5 minutes, it was just too little time. Sorry, it was freezing.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, for me, that moment, that what moment was in the script when it was written, was when she signs to him we, and he's like, what do you mean we? Like we, that was like, that showed that misinterpretation, right? That difficulty. And I was happy to have that in there because there needs to be more. And like I said, there was more and it got cut for time. But that moment was an important kind of fraught communication, so to speak.
Oh, Shanice, go ahead.
Yeah,
Shanice.
yeah, I have to go, but I just want to say that it was just an honor working with everybody and being a part of this. And I also want to say thank you to Brian, because Brian, there were certain things, the way you broke certain things down to me when you were teaching me the sign language, like he would say, think of Beyonce Single Ladies. Remember he did that? You know, so thank you. You made it so much fun. And Joanne, thank you so much. Everybody worked really hard, and I think it paid off. I think we have an amazing film. It's beautiful, and I will see you guys soon. I will see you soon.
Hey, baby.
Love you guys.
Love
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, Joanne, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, for me, there's a takeaway. I'm not going to give it away. Um, at at the end, you see what the connection is. So the end of the film is really the beginning that I feel. What we got to see is like a slice of life, a slice of a connection, a slice of a time. But what you see at the end is really the crux and why people should watch um, of what Shanice's character knows she must do.
I also I love how challenging this is. You know, we did something that wasn't easy, and that's unusual, right? It captures your attention because you're like, wow, that's really rhythmic. That, you know, that this relationship is just like, now there are all these questions that pop up suddenly, right? Because it's something we haven't considered. And I think that that's really powerful. When the power of film is when you can put something out there that people haven't seen and that make them consider and think differently about how they construct the world and where deaf and disabled people might fall into that world.
I wanted to add my takeaway. So I know I watched the movie and I watched, you know, of course I support the deaf community and everything. For this movie, I feel like there's one thing I realized, and this, with the deaf man being the lead, it's not about him being deaf, you know. There's a lot of movies where the movie is about the deaf man being deaf and they want help and support, and it's not about that. It's not about that issue. And finally we changed it for once. The second takeaway was that she didn't tell him that she had a baby, that the baby was deaf. And it's like, what? And so it's really interesting. It's an interesting perspective. You know, most deaf fathers, they they think that they can't keep the baby. It's interesting to see. Like, it's interesting to see my deaf perspective, and you know, I'm glad it's not about an like a deaf issue and a deaf problem. Like, it's the same problem I have that they have. And so when I do have a problem with relationships, or I do have a problem with my job or whatever, life itself, the movie is not about deaf people and all of that. So I was happy about that. You're right. That's exactly what we need to see more of. We need to see more movies with deaf people involved. It doesn't have to be around, you know, the fact that they're deaf. And that's what I really liked about this movie. Ryan? So so the 15 years that I've been in a couple shows, and it's always about, you know, the deaf people having a cochlear implant, or you know, how to involve that in their culture. And so when I started acting and I started playing these roles, it was always about cochlear implants, cochlear implants, cochlear implants. But this project was not about cochlear implants. And I found, you know, I was a father, and I found out that they told me that my role was a father, and there were problems with my skin color, and it wasn't just about me being deaf or having a implant or anything. It was different, and it was kind of like my communication and how to create my relationship with her. So it was good to see a difference. It helped me understand. It made me experience different cultures. So do you mean we need more roles like this for you and deaf actors to be a part of? You know, there's no excuse to have more, to not have more roles like this. Exactly, you know, deaf people, there's so many different stories. It's not all the same. Okay, woo, we're getting close to the time where we have to wrap up soon. Before I do wrap up, I do just want to quickly talk about the Easter Seals Challenge. You know, why did the Easter Seals, why was it so important? Why do you guys think it was so important for our community?
Well, because it's about disability, right? And this is one of the only challenges out there that highlights disability specifically. Projects like this wouldn't exist without the Disability Film Challenge. I myself, this is my third Disability Film Challenge film. I wouldn't have made any of these films if there wasn't a venue out there that said, we're looking for these films about these experiences. And I think that's beautiful. And I also love that we can have this conversation, because I think this is reflective of the disability community and all of the different experiences that are brought into the room whenever you have a conversation about disability with disabled people.
Yeah, you can't leave us out of the conversation. I agree with you. And Penny?
I just wanted to say that before I get off, that what Nick Novicki has done with this film challenge is absolutely phenomenal. This is the 10th anniversary of the Disability Film Challenge, and I'm very honored that I was able to be a part of it. And I extend my graciousness and my thankfulness to Nick for creating a platform for people with disabilities to express their tremendous abilities and talent. I'm just very honored that we had such a wonderful team across the board, and that we were able to bring this vision into fruition. So I just want to say that.
I have one comment. I've been involved with the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge from the inception, and Nick Novicki said to me, what's one thing I could do with the deaf community that I can keep going? And I said, bring the interpreters on the stage, 2, caption, and 3, make all the communication, the trailers accessible. And he's done all 3 consecutively, consistently for years from the inception. I helped interpret in the beginning and then coordinate some of the interpreters, and he's amazing. So this challenge brings together filmmakers, and it's rare for festivals to caption, rare for film festivals to bring an interpreter to the podium, including Sundance. And I'm including Tribeca and all of them. And so Real Abilities and Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge are like the 2 in North America that consistently provide audio description. They make their formats accessible. So
I've got to go, everybody. Thank you very much. Peace and blessings,
you,
everybody.
Penny.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I wanted to say one last thing about what this challenge means to me. To me, it's even more than for the disability community. It's for all communities to come together. Again, it's about coming together and working together, because I always thought, even with Meet the Biz, we're in Hollywood. Why just have a class for, quote, actors with disabilities, performers with disabilities? We're all working together. Let's all study together. Let's all connect together. So that is what I love about this community, which I call family. And the films that I love to make don't put labels on it. It's about human beings connecting and living together. Because society seems to put so many, you're this, you're that, you're that. It's like, get that out of the way. Let's get to the heart of the matter and the soul of the matter. And by the way, thank you. Thank you so much, Melissa, for it's so nice to sit back and not be the host.
Thank you.
Beautiful job.
I appreciate the conversation, and everyone who's watching, go ahead and watch Kryptonite on Easter Seals Disability Challenge on YouTube. Watch it, and you can understand the emotions that are related with this movie. Thank you so much. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank-
Yay.
$11:48, you're at my door. I can feel it more and more and more. Inside melting, never felt this. Heat is rising from the floor. 11:59, don't make me wait. Your body's close to mine, I can't escape. Nowhere to run when you come, I'm so powerless.